Hello, Dr. Kit Slies here, psychologist and life coach, here to inspire your self-compassion, your confidence, and your growth. And today I'm talking about self-discipline as actually a form of self-compassion. And how do we have self-discipline without feeling shame and without getting down on ourselves? And I know it can be kind of confusing to think of self-discipline as self-compassion because a lot of people have a negative association with discipline. And what I want to really illustrate for you today is that if you are approaching self-discipline as a form of self-compassion, that this can actually set you free and inspire your confidence, so that you can continue to grow into all your goals and aspirations. So to begin with, let's talk about what self-discipline is, or what discipline is. Discipline essentially, in the way that we're talking about it, is just a way of creating new habits, new routines. It might involve some restraint on behaviors or reactions or something along those lines, some kind of restraint. And the whole goal of discipline in creating those new habits, routines, or imposing some sort of restraint is to achieve some kind of desired outcome. So that's what discipline is. What discipline is not is punishment. Okay. And now some people will incorporate punishment as a form of discipline, but that's not essentially what discipline is. In fact, the root word of discipline, it comes from a Latin word, and my Latin teacher will probably give me a hard time, would have given me a hard time for butchering this. The Latin word discipulus, okay? And essentially what that means is student or pupil. So if we think about what discipline is, it's a process of teaching and guidance that does not necessarily involve punishment. And in fact, when we think about behavior change, okay, when we think about the literature and the research on behavior change, we know that reward is more effective than punishment when it comes to producing behavior change. Okay, so reward is, giving something positive as a result of doing something, whereas punishment involves either giving something negative or taking something valuable away to reinforce a behavior. Okay, and in the literature and the research in children in particular shows that physical and emotional punishment actually cause more harm than good. First of all, it's not very effective at creating true behavior change. And second of all, you can get a whole host of unintended consequences when we're using punishment in kids. Things like feeling shame, degrading of a caregiver and child relationship, building of mistrust, and even longer term consequences such as acting out with aggression, and that can go into adulthood as well. So punishment is not really all that great in kiddos, and in using it with ourselves when we're thinking of self-discipline. And so in thinking about how self-discipline can be a form of self-compassion, I want you to take punishment out of the equation. We are not punishing ourselves when we're trying to create some kind of new behavior or routine or impose some kind of restraint on ourselves. Restraint is not a punishment. Okay, thinking about okay, using an example of a child, we need to restrain them for their safety sometimes, right? Like, we're not going to let a child run across the street, because if we let them do that, then they could get hit by a car, as an example. So it's the same thing when we're restraining ourselves in some way as an adult. Maybe we want to restrain getting on our phones and going on social media because we're trying to create some other new kind of habit, we're actually protecting ourselves in that moment. So self-discipline as a form of self-compassion is actually a process of lovingly guiding yourself, lovingly teaching yourself. And it may be helpful to even think of your inner child when you're thinking of self-discipline. How can you lovingly guide yourself as a child, as if you were a child, to help yourself create some kind of new behavior or habit or routine? This process of guiding yourself really involves knowing yourself. It involves knowing your strengths. What are you already good at that you're going to put into play in this new behavior or habit that you're trying to implement? But it also involves acknowledging any barriers or weaknesses that you have. Now, that does not mean that you're going to be mean to yourself based on those weaknesses. Okay, what that means is that you need to acknowledge the weakness and create some kind of plan for yourself to lovingly work through those weaknesses so that when they're coming up, they're not a total shocking surprise that you're then going to go berate yourself about because, oh, I'm so horrible, I can never do this thing. It's like, no, that's not kind. That's punishment right there when we're saying those things to ourselves. So this involves having a language of self-kindness and self-forgiveness for when we are inevitably going to screw up the new routine or behavior, because guess what? We're going to do that. But that's okay. That's okay. That's part of the process of learning and growing, is screwing up and saying, oh, all right, that didn't work out that time. I'm going to be kind to myself in this moment and try again, whether that's right now or later. And that kind of self-talk is what's necessary for implementing any kind of changes. In fact, I think a lot of people get stuck in procrastination when they're trying to do some kind of new behavior, or they're trying to do something that involves that restraint of not, watching a show or indulging ourselves in some way when we need to be doing something that feels kind of boring, or that we really deep down there's a part of us that doesn't want to do it. We can get stuck in procrastination, but that has nothing to do with lack of ability to manage our time or make plans. Usually procrastination, when it comes down to, is that the feelings that are coming up for us in that moment. The thing feels icky, or we feel icky about ourselves because a part of us doubts our ability to do it, and it's that self-doubt or shame that could be coming up, and feeling like, oh, I'm not actually a good enough person to do this thing. I don't have it in me. Those kinds of things. The feelings that come up in that moment are what actually makes it hard for us to follow through on our intentions and our goals to do some kind of behavior. And so it's working with those feelings and having self-compassion. I've talked about this before. Self-compassion. What is that? Self-compassion, self-talk sounds like? It sounds like, oh, okay, this thing actually doesn't feel good. I tried to do this thing and I wasn't able to follow through. That's actually painful. And let me just acknowledge that pain, and let me just actually be kind to myself in this moment. Let me acknowledge that I'm trying. Let me be forgiving of myself. Let me support myself in this moment. Let me love on myself as if I was a child who needed that love and encouragement and guidance to foster a desire to do this new behavior. It's about fostering that desire. And so when you approach self-discipline in this way, with self-kindness, self-forgiveness, support, this is how it actually sets you free. And so it's not about restraint and punishment and all of that. It's about freeing yourself, because when you give yourself that love and support and self-compassion, you are going to be more likely to follow through on the habits and behaviors and things that you want to do in order to achieve your goals. And guess what? At that point in time, you're going to feel confident. You're going to feel confident in your abilities, and you're going to want to do the new habits and routines that were initially hard for you to do, because that confidence creates momentum. And that momentum builds trust in yourself. And as you're creating this confidence and this trust and momentum, guess what? You're growing because you're creating new habits and routines. You're achieving goals. You're growing as a person. So this is how an approach to self-discipline, remember, it's not punishment. This is about doing things. Yes, sometimes the things that we're doing for self-discipline don't feel good. We don't always want to be doing them, but having kindness and compassion for yourself in those moments is the way through it. That is how it will set you free, help you achieve your goals, help you grow and feel confident in your abilities. So I hope that you can take this approach with self-discipline, whether it's trying to do, maybe you're working on a new exercise habit, maybe I know for me lately, self-discipline has been about, it's tax season for a lot of us, and sitting down and crunching the numbers and, oh, that doesn't feel good. I don't want to do that. But I took some self-discipline in myself to work through that. Still working on that one. And I hope that you found this helpful and can use this mindset or approach to self-discipline so that you can continue to foster your own self-compassion, your confidence, and your growth. Bye for now.